Okay, this is how to put a imprinted diamond pattern onto the cake. And this is a buttercream cake, and you can do this with fondant, but I usually work more with buttercream. So I've had people tell me that bakers have said, oh, you can't do that, but of course you can. There's a lot of things you can do with buttercream that you can do with fondant. You have to tell the client that it's not going to look exactly the same if they're bringing you a picture. And of course, they got a little piece of fuzz. Okay, so the first thing you do, you want to start out with a little diamond texture mat. And when you line this up, I use this just to imprint a very light pattern. You want to make sure that the joint of the diamond is actually level with the top edge of the cake, because you don't want it to be like this. It doesn't really matter what it looks like on the bottom, because you can always put a border on there or something. But you just want to very gently kind of roll this around. And this is a confectioner's sugar buttercream that will kind of crust over, so I can press into it a little bit. And you see it's putting the pattern on there. It's very light, but it's enough for me to see. So you work your way around the cake like that. Let me see. I want to make sure this lines up. Now if you do this deep enough and it looks okay, you can just leave this, but I usually go back with a skewer to make sure it's going to look alright. When you get around here, it's probably not, actually this time it actually did kind of line up exactly right. It's probably not going to be exactly right where you started and where you ended. And then of course little fibers get on the cake, so you can pull that off. But you know, every cake has a back, so unless you have a cake that people are going to be looking at, cake in the round, it's not such a big deal if it doesn't line up perfectly. So part two, now that you've got the marks on there, you want to start with just a wooden skewer. Very carefully put this here, line it up with the line. You want to drag it just slightly. You don't want to really dig it in there. Just kind of press it and drag it a little bit. And you don't have to go all the way up, because that will dig the cake out. And you're going to go all the way around. If you're dragging it a little bit, then that will put a little bit of pressure on the icing and it won't rip the icing. If you just stick it in there and then pull it out, it's going to make a big mark, and that's not going to be good. So just drag it very gently. And if you do it a little bit, like, see, that's a little bit deep, so you're going to be able to go back and just press that down or smooth it out with the smoother once you're ready. And just keep cleaning the skewer off so that it doesn't have icing on it. And you go all the way around. So you basically just go all the way around, make these a little bit deeper. And let's see. Now see, this one didn't exactly line up right, so just make sure that when you're doing it, you're kind of hitting it right in the middle. And I could feel that was going a little bit deeper into the icing, so I kept going with it instead of pulling it up. If you feel that it's dragging the icing too much, just let the icing sit for a little bit longer to kind of solidify a little bit. And you can do this if you want to stick it in the fridge just to make it a little stiffer. This will be the back, because I can see that the space between this one and this one is different, so that's where it lined up probably. Alright, then you're going to go back in the other direction. Just very gently. You don't want to make it really deep, because then you're going to hit the cake. If that happens, just smooth it out. And now we know which side is going to be the back. But I can probably smooth that out later. Okay. I'm also kind of doing this sideways, and it makes it a little more difficult. Alright. That was a little crooked. If it gets a little crooked, you can go back and kind of press it out. Alright. And this looks like the worst side. You know, you smooth the icing out, and then as you're working on it, you see these little tiny fibers. I don't know where they come from, floating around in the air. Okay, there's one. So obviously just check, but what I usually do with these is I'll go back and put pearls just right at the joints where all the lines meet, and that helps to disguise this little bit where the lines overlap and kind of make a little ridge. And, you know, like I said before, if it looks like there's a place that's a little too deep or the icing is kind of coming up like that, take a clean piece of typing paper and just press it on there, and that'll smooth it out. So that's basically it. Just don't dig in too deep with the skewer and you should be good.